Oregon at Washington. The Ducks are 7-point favorites going on the road against a Washington team that is very fun to watch and can be a problem for the Ducks. Oregon is playing really well as of recently, and that's a big reason why this is going to be a fun team to watch in the college football playoff. This is a team that is very focused on the task at hand and has shown that it can deal with the adversity sent its way. Injuries have given Oregon a lot of problems so far this year, and specifically recently. The wide receiver room continues taking hit after hit, but all this team does is bounce back. The offensive line even has taken some hits, and Dan Lanning's squad has basically brushed those off and said, hey, we're fine. We're not worried about this. We're going to be able to figure out everything that we need to figure out, and we're going to be able to win football games. And when you look at what they've done recently, that's evident of that. They beat USC, not in convincing fashion, but it was a good statement. They did beat Minnesota in convincing fashion, and they've just found ways to win, even in tough situations. At Iowa, an 18-16 win in those conditions, very impressive. And this is a team that could be building enough momentum to make a run in the college football playoff. Now, beating Washington is going to be a challenge, especially on the road. You look at what Dan Lanning has done against Washington in the past, that's been something that adds to this storyline. Now, Dante Moore is going to play a big role. And Dante Moore has been about as poised as you could ask from any quarterback in college football. He's been put in a lot of tough situations, and all he's done is deliver. And I think one of the biggest things with Dante Moore is we came into this year with high expectations for him. We knew he was talented. We knew his history. We knew what he could potentially do. The biggest question we had for him was, what does he do when the moment's big, and what does he do in big games? And I think that he's done a great job of bouncing back from a tough start to his career. His experience at UCLA put him in those same positions, but he struggled. And part of it was on him, but part of it was also on the team that he had. This was not a good team in UCLA that I think gave him a lot of anxiety in the pocket and a lot of concerns about how to be able to run that offense. Comes to Oregon, gets to work with Will Stein, and it's clear that this team has put him in successful positions to make plays. Over 2,400 yards, 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and also that goes with the rotating the rotating group of wide receivers, the different players that have stepped up week in and week out. It feels like every week Oregon has someone else stepping up in a big way, which says two things. One, it speaks to the recruiting, it speaks to the talent development, but also it speaks to the injuries that they've sustained. You've seen a number of guys go down with injuries. Evan Stewart has yet to play a game, and he has been someone that I think if they had Evan Stewart, that would be a huge addition to this offense, but they're fine without him. You lost to Corey Moore in the last couple of weeks. Kenyon Sadiq has dealt with injuries, but someone else has stepped up, whether that's Malik Benson, Jeremiah McClellan, Gary Bryant Jr., who has stepped up, but also is dealing with injuries himself. They have had a group that is competitive and they play for each other. It's very obvious. When one guy goes down, another guy steps up. And getting Sadiq back has been huge. It's clear that his talent level is very much utilized and needed in this offense. But also, Will Stein has done a great job of adapting his play calls to the personnel available. I love what Will Stein has done with the tight end position. I love that he's been using multiple tight end sets because his wide receivers aren't as deep. He's had to use the personnel that he's been given, and he's a perfect example for his team of, I'm dealing with adversity, and this is what I'm doing with it. I'm dealing with a shortage in wide receivers, but we're still moving the ball. We're still throwing the football. We're not going to give up because we don't have our top guys. And I think his team, his offense, has responded to that. Now, it does help when you have a three-headed monster at running back. That also helps. And an offensive line that has dominated their competition. Noah Whittington, Jordan Davison, and De'Aaron Hill Jr. are a fun trio to watch. Whittington leads the team with 727 yards and 6 touchdowns. Davison, 511 yards, leads the team with 13 touchdowns. And De'Aaron Hill, 452 yards and 4 touchdowns. Davison has the lowest yards per carry at 6.5. Hill has 8.5, Whittington 7.7. So it's not just that they're running the football, they're running the football efficiently and explosively. That has helped a passing attack that, again, is dealing with injuries, but also the rushing attack is doing its part. This defense also deserves a lot of credit for playing how they've played. When you look at some of the teams they've been able to handle, for the most part, they have taken care of business. Obviously, there have been games that have raised some concerns, but this isn't a team that you have big time concerns with. The USC team that they face was the best passing attack that they've seen all year. Giving up 27 points to them is not bad. I think that you could say actually Indiana was the best that they faced, but they've faced a couple of good passing attacks, and I think that this defense has held up for the most part. I think that you have a defense that flies around, and even though certain players haven't necessarily had the best seasons, they are still making an impact. I think that Mateo Uyangale not having his best year, but he's still a good player for this team, a good player for teams to worry about if you're facing the Oregon Ducks. And you're going to have them, you're going to need them, I should say, to be able to do that against Washington, because this Washington offense is a problem. Damon Williams is an absolute unit when he's playing at a high level. He is so tough to stop. Over 2,700 yards, 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, also has 568 yards and 6 touchdowns as a runner. He is very tough to stop. And one way that Oregon can do that is swarming him, getting in the backfield and making his life difficult. He's a little bit on the shorter side, so knocking down passes could be a way to rattle him as well. And you have guys on Oregon's defense that can do that. Stopping the run is also going to be a part of this. Teams that have had success against Washington have basically taken Jonah Coleman out of the picture, and he has cooled off tremendously since the first part of the season. 651 yards and 14 touchdowns on the year. He also has 335 yards and 2 touchdowns as a receiver. Denzel Boston is the big name you have to watch if you are Oregon. 730 yards and 8 touchdowns for him. He has been very good for Damon Williams to go to. Desmond Roebuck has been a factor as well. 527 yards and 6 touchdowns for him. There are guys that can be dangerous to Oregon. And this is an Oregon defense that has faced better passing attacks, but this is still a Washington passing attack that can definitely make life difficult for the Oregon Ducks. So if you're looking at how Washington can find success, it's moving the ball efficiently and finding ways to keep Damon Williams in rhythm. Now, their own defense is going to have to step up the physicality. They're going to have to be able to handle a rushing attack that is going to try and hit them in the mouth multiple times. When you look at similar teams they've faced running the football, the Michigan game is the one that comes to mind. When you look at what happened against Michigan, the type of team that Michigan was going to be against this Washington team, that's kind of what they need to fix. That's kind of what they need to combat, is how do they go against the rushing attack in Oregon, a physical team in Oregon that is going to try to win that battle and basically force Washington to quit. Because when you look at what Michigan was able to do, they were able to take away the rushing attack for Washington, and Jordan Marshall ran for 133 yards. Oregon is going to try to do that as much as possible, and how Washington handles that is going to be a big question. The Huskies are playing at home, though, and we've seen in the past that has given Oregon some troubles. If they can lean into that, get some momentum early, create some turnovers, that's going to help. I am going to pick Oregon. I think they're playing too well right now for Washington to beat. And I think that the Ducks are going to be really focused, laser focused on the playoff. They are going to be focused on making a run and redeeming themselves from a disappointing performance last year. So they're going to win this game. I don't have concerns about their performance in this one.